Hey guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Space Marine 2 for another class build video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about everything you need to know about the Bulwark class in Space Marine 2. If you want to know everything you can about the Bulwark in terms of what he has and what he does, then this is the video for you. We're going to talk about everything you need to know about the Bulwark, talking about things like his role and gameplay that he has compared to the rest of the classes, his ability, his weapon options, some noteworthy perks, and finally some good team-based options. That way you know what to complement the Bulwark with, or you know when to play the Bulwark when you see these classes that your teammates have. Hope you guys enjoy, and if you want to see some more Space Marine content or just other videos in the future, be sure to like and subscribe, that way you never miss another upload. At first, talking about the Bulwark, we are going to go over his role and gameplay in comparison to the rest of the classes in the game. If you remember in the last video I did for this, talking about the tactical, I mentioned that each of the classes can kind of be put into one of two different categories, either melee-based classes or ranged-based classes. For the Bulwark, there is pretty much no debate on this. He is essentially full-blown into the melee side of things. While sure he does have a ranged weapon with a secondary, he is all about being knee-deep in the blood of his enemies, and being constantly surrounded by enemies is essentially all he wants to do. He lives and breathes melee damage, so if you want to be in the fray, the Bulwark is the class for you. And the main gameplay role that the Bulwark has is one of aggression and aggro pulling, as well as just sheer raw unkillability, if that's even a word. Essentially, the Bulwark wants to keep the attention of all the enemies and outlast the ever-approaching enemy hordes by sheer attrition alone. He is quite frankly the embodiment of man literally too angry to die. If you're having trouble getting through missions and you want a class that just straight up will not die, the Bulwark will handle it perfectly well. One thing to point out about the Bulwark that he functions a little bit differently compared to the other classes is because he has a shield, he has a very unique block system. First, when sprinting forward, normally he will hold his shield up automatically and just be able to block and deflect range-based attacks. Also, whereas everybody else will simply do a parry motion when you try to use the block button, for the Bulwark, if you hold the block button, you will actually just hold the shield up and be able to deflect attacks. And unless it's one of those red ringed attacks that you cannot block and you have to avoid, you can just sit there and just take whatever hit the enemy will hit you with. Again, this is another way that his durability and seemingly indestructibility helps him remain in the fight for longer. And the Bulwark gets most of his raw survivability from his class skill, the Chapter Banner. This is a flag that he's able to plant in the ground, and when he does, its main effect is it radiates outwards and applies a armor regeneration effect to himself and nearby allies. This means that your armor will constantly fill up so long as you stay close to the banner. Now, the banner can be upgraded to do various different things, and I'll talk a little bit more about that when I talk about perk choices, but the main overall goal that the banner has is to increase your survivability and durability by making it so that way your armor constantly regenerates. And this can be great if used both proactively and reactively. If an enemy swarm comes at you and you're not really sure if you're going to be able to withstand it, or if you're up against a big problematic threat like a Carnifex or just one of the mission bosses, this can help significantly in keeping you and the rest of your team alive. Plus, it's also one of the coolest and most aura farming type abilities in the entire game. It just has such a presence to it that makes it incredibly fun to use. Now, one thing about the Bulwark that is very different from the tactical that we talked about last time is that he certainly has a very limited amount of weapons available to him. Compared to the tactical, he practically doesn't have a whole lot of anything, and he definitely requires you to change the way that you think about weapons in regards to what he's able to use. Since he is a full melee-oriented class, he doesn't have any primary weapons available to him. He has 4 secondary weapon options and 3 melee options. Immediately not having access to primary weapons might seem like a bit of a immediate no-go to some players, but trust me when I say that this class is still capable of doing insane amounts of damage, even without primary weapons. As for the rest of his equipment, for secondary weapons, he has the bolt pistol, the heavy bolt pistol, the plasma pistol, and the neo-volkite pistol. And for melee weapons, he has the chainsword, the power fist, and the power sword. Also, this video is going to be released right before the launch of Update 8 for the game, but in that update, it is basically confirmed that the Bulwark is also going to have access to the Thunder Hammer. So if you're watching this video when it comes out, he will not have access to the Thunder Hammer at that time, but with the launch of Update 8, he will have access to it. And interestingly enough, even though you only do have access to secondary weapons when it comes to ranged encounters, you do still have a good amount of variety in terms of the types of ranged encounters that you could take. You can actually have a pretty long range setup if you have something like the Neo-Bolkite pistol or the heavy bolt pistol, or if you want to just really lean into your close quarters fighting style, the plasma pistol and the regular bolt pistol are both really good for that. The real way that the Bulwark is able to express himself is his melee weapons. He of course has the chainsword, which is tried and true, can't really go wrong with it. He also has the power sword, which has a modal change that you can do. You can either have the unpowered version, which in my opinion is better for one-on-one fighting with bigger threats, and then the powered version allows you to cleave through smaller threats incredibly well. And the power fist, which recently got changed to where it's now a lot better, is really slow but really powerful and definitely packs a big punch, no pun intended. It also has some of my personal favorite executions in the entire game. Next, going into the perks that the Bulwark has access to, remember that I'm not going to be going into a full breakdown of all of the perks, as that would make this video really long, and I'm not going to go over any of the prestige perks because that's more of an endgame thing, but I am going to be going over his team synergy perks as well as the signature perks that he has because they are the big ones, and then a couple more noteworthy ones that can complement or change his playstyle very well, or that just have very high powered effects. First, going over his personal starting perk, remember this is a perk that every single class has their own unique version of, and you cannot change, it's just always there. And for the Bulwark, his starting perk is just he has 30% increased health. This is really nice, especially against the Bulwark is going to be in melee range and fighting the enemies all the time. First, talking about his team-based perks, these are the perks that affect everybody, including him on the team. First option we have is Focus Restoration. This makes it so that way every 40 seconds, all squad members automatically restore 1 armor segment. This can be really nice, especially since armor does not regenerate while you are in combat. So this can make it so that way you get an extra armor segment sort of randomly, which can come in handy very often, especially since, again, combat does not stop this timer from happening. And while there are other ways that you can get armor pretty quickly, this can give you that sort of extra reserve bit of armor that you can get at the perfect time whenever you need it. The next option is Advanced Conditioning. This makes it so that way your contested health fades 50% more slowly for you and all your squad mates. Remember, contested health is that white health that remains whenever you take damage, that if you deal damage quick enough, you'll be able to gain that health back. And this just gives you a better chance of getting that because it will fall slower, meaning that you can get health back better, which is never a bad option. And the last option is Effective Formation. This makes it so that way all squad members take 20% less health damage from extremist and terminus level threats. This can be pretty good, although it's not quite as effective as the other ones, at least in my personal opinion. While on the higher difficulties, it can be useful because you will get a lot of extremist level enemies, and you can also get up to 2 terminus level threats if you are on the highest difficulty, or if you're going through any of the specific boss fighting missions. This can be nice. However, I think the general utility of the other two more or less outweigh this one. Then going over his signature perks, these are the big ones that will affect just him and are kind of his, I guess, ultimate perks is the best way to describe it. First, we have Emergency Countermeasures. This makes it so that way when your armor is fully depleted, a reserve shock grenade automatically detonates at your position, and the cooldown is 90 seconds. Now, this might seem a little odd as to why specifically a shock grenade will drop whenever your armor is depleted, as the shock area is nice to have, although it might seem a bit random, but there is actually a decent build setup that you can do for the Bulwark that focuses around shock damage. He has perks like Defensive Advantage, which makes it so that way whenever you do a perfect parry or block, you create a shock area for 5 seconds, and the cooldown is 30 seconds, to just Shock and Awe, which makes it so that way enemies that are in a shock area take 25% more damage. So an electrified build for the Bulwark is actually a very valid one, and this is just basically one of the bigger enablers of that particular style of build. And even outside of that, it is still very useful because just having a shock area around you whenever you take enough damage every minute and a half can still be very useful for taking pressure off of you. The second option for the Bulwark is Defensive Mastery. This makes it so that way a perfect parry or block will instantly incapacitate a Majoris or Extremist level enemy, and the cooldown is 90 seconds. Now, when they say incapacitate, this basically just means it can be executed regardless of what health it's at, which means you can have a perfectly healthy Lictor or Ravener come at you and try to attack you, and if you just do a single perfect parry or block, it will then become executable, which means you can take it out very quickly. This is really nice, especially again if you're on one of those higher difficulties where you're going to be getting a lot of extremist level threats, but even just being able to take out one problematic enemy every 90 seconds can still be very nice. And finally, the last option for him is Armored Advanced. This just says if you have any armor remaining, you do not lose control upon taking heavy hits and cannot be knocked back. This is very self-explanatory. Just so long as you have any amount of armor you cannot be staggered or knocked back by any sort of heavy attack, which can be really good for a number of different things. It just gives you so much control over yourself, and it allows you to do basically whatever you want without any sort of interruption. You can revive allies, get whatever you need, and just basically not be interrupted by any form of damage. Then to go over some of the more basic perks that the Bulwark has access to, a lot of his stronger ones are a little bit later, so you will have to level him up a good amount just to get access to some of these good ones. But there are a couple of really decent early game ones, especially ones like Rejuvenating Effect, which make it so that way you can use the banner to revive incapacitated squad members, which can be really nice as it's very fast, and also just makes it so that way they have a much better chance of surviving after being picked up because they will have the armor regeneration instantly. Another good one is Glory Shield. This makes it so that way all squad members within the banner's area of effect take 20% less damage, and the banner lasts 20% longer. This is a just generally really good one to use because it makes it so that way the banner is even more effective at keeping your teammates alive, and it just lasts longer so it can do its effect for even better period of time. Another really good one for the Bulwark is Armor Reinforcement. This makes it so that way non-finisher gun strikes restore 1 armor segment. Normally, gun strikes only restore armor if you kill the enemy with it, but this makes it so that way even if you just shoot a normal enemy and it doesn't even kill them, you'll still get 1 armor back, which again can just make it so that way the Bulwark is ridiculously tough to kill. And then probably his strongest and most controversial perk, controversial for at least the devs, not necessarily for the players, is Invigorating Icon. This makes it so that way when you place the banner, all of your squads get any missing health that they have replaced with contested health. This means that they're able to basically get a full heal whenever you use this. Now the trade-off is that the banner recharge is 50% slower, but that's really easy to offset with other class abilities as well as other regeneration abilities, and this just makes it so that way the banner functions more like a healing tool, which is really strong, but also something that is almost too strong to the point where the devs have talked about that they really want to rework this perk. So by the time you're hearing this perk might be completely changed over, but just know that as of right now, this is probably one of, if not the strongest perks that the Bulwark has access to. Finally, the last thing for us to talk about are team synergies for the Bulwark, what classes he works well with and what classes benefit the most from him. Now, as you can probably imagine, since he is a very heavy melee class, the other melee classes are probably his best pairings. As such, him and the Assault are probably best friends. Since the Assault is also very heavy melee focused, these guys can both sort of just play off of each other, and between both of them, the AoE control they have is damn near unmatched. Along the same lines, the Vanguard is also a pretty heavy melee focused class, although the Vanguard can kind of go either way if he wants to be melee or ranged focused, but typically he is going to be more melee oriented, and he does have a lot of ways in which he can benefit the Bulwark in terms of helping him do what he wants to do. And honestly, as weird as it might sound, I think the Sniper is actually also a very good pairing for the Bulwark. And the main reason I say this is because the Sniper is very good at taking out the singular problematic threats, whereas the Bulwark can then handle the massive groups of enemies, which with both of those things together can help you take out the entire swarm very well. Well, that about covers everything you need to know about the Bulwark and Space Marine 2. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you enjoyed this video, consider leaving a like and subscribing today, as it really helps me out a lot. For the Emperor Marines, I will see you in the next video.